chat. Well, my name is Mat Dusza, as Beth introduced. I have, for the last 5 years, been a natural playgrounds designer, installer, mainly throughout Texas. I've done, I think, about over 60 designs and installations for green space, and had a lot of fun doing it. Prior to that, I've been in early childhood since 1997 as a teacher, administrator, teacher trainer, all sorts of hats throughout my career. So I get the pleasure of melding both that early childhood level of understanding, development, growth, environments into design, and especially in the area of outdoor play spaces, outdoor classrooms. So my fun job I get to share with you. And so with that, what we're going to do for the next 45, 50 minutes is, as we've just started, just doing introductions and logistics. We'll do the main presentation, and through that, as I said, I'll ask some questions. So I'd love some feedback. Please go ahead and use the chat function there for Zoom. Beth and I will be looking over it, so happy to answer your questions as we go through this. Definitely want your interaction and your questions. It seems like there's quite a cross cut of different backgrounds here on the call, which I find really exciting. So hopefully you'll be able to take something from this to apply to your particular role, your particular job. Towards the end, we'll do Q&A, and then we'll open it up to you if you have any more questions, and then finish it up with some resource sharing. Okay. So just what to expect for the next hour is review and discuss the benefits of connecting with nature, definitely with children connecting with nature too, but also us. We need the space to be a space for all of us to enjoy and appreciate. We'll identify outdoor play elements that can be made available for children, and then let's finish it off with an action plan, and hopefully something from this training will create an action in your role, as I just mentioned.
It's being recorded. And I'm going to clock in the word.
Okay, can you please mute? Thank you. All right. So just to get things started, to get our appetite going for the workshop, how are you drawn to nature? Are you drawn to nature? And if in your role you are working with children, how have you observed children interact with nature? So let's just start off with that first one. Are you drawn to nature to start off with? And if so, what draws you in? What captivates you? What motivates you to say, okay, let's go for a walk outside. Let's jump in the car and go to a nature strip or a park or something like that.
I'll answer. For me, it's the weather. Just living in Texas, like summertime is trickier to get outside unless it involves water. It's just smoking hot. But when the weather is gorgeous, it's hard not to want to get outside. And then the people as well. My closest friend and I do what we call adult adventure camp, where we try to meet up. She lives in Montana and I'm in Texas, so we try to meet up somewhere in the US and go camping and hiking and stuff like that. So that's kind of our yeah, draw to nature and to each
Mm.
other. So
Mm. Oh, that's great. I love the fact that you're putting a social element into it as well. So it just creates that further draw. Thank you, Katie. That was great. Anyone else? Are you drawn to nature? If you're not drawn to nature, why what is it in nature that may hold you back? And I know, pardon me, Katie mentioned here in Texas it does get pretty warm, and that can definitely be something that stops you from being outside for sure. Um, Anything else? Let's see. Okay, just looking at the chat here. Um, Uh, Drawn to nature. Okay. So Lisa said, definitely drawn to nature and have since I was a child. Love watching birds, animals in their natural environment. So yeah, just animals, nature, being raised, playing outside, being outside is such a key factor. Um, Two, Lynn said, love walking in the woods and being around water. Yeah, I can definitely associate there with that. Nature walk, six-seater buggy, sightseeing. We also have mud play, making cakes and cookies from Sarah, Rachel, Emmanuel there. So yeah, having taking children, even those who are less mobile, being outside, that's really important. Um, Jen said the healing and restorative effects of it. A good long hike can be so healing for me. Beth definitely agrees. Sprinkle play from Briona and watching butterflies and having a garden. Yes. So all these particular elements draw us to nature, doesn't it? Just the beauty is what I'm reading into a number of these responses. Um, Having water, so different elements draw us. Weather sometimes does. So there's definitely a lot of factors that bring us in. If you haven't yet, you can also add to how have you observed children interact with nature? And as you think about that, and as you may write your responses, I think this is a really important question to start off with when we talk about designing for children and designing outdoor nature spaces and places for children, because not everyone obviously has the same experiences that we do with nature. Not everyone may have been raised being outside. Most of us, I would say, would be living and working within an urban um, like situation, even suburban situation where uh, children and families tend not to go outside that much. It has to be more of a planned experience, and those planned experiences may not happen a lot. The experiences may only occur maybe when children are playing sport. Some children live in apartments that don't really necessarily have a backyard. So we're talking about, and we need to understand the context with which we're working with. And to add to that layer too, we need to realize parents and families may not have had that same experience of being outside. So naturally, they're not going to be inclined to want to be outside. This has been a big understanding or big paradigm of mine. You may have guessed that I'm not from around here. I'm from Australia, and these are actually my children going for a bushwalk in Australia with some mates. And we basically lived outside, and we had property and, mountains and hills and streams and water and beaches and all sorts of elements of just growing up and appreciating and moving to the Dallas area. It was definitely something that children and people my age and older just never were outside. And there was this hesitation, there was even a fear of being outside. And so this is the space that we're working in, especially where I am, and maybe where you are as well, and understanding that playground design, play space design needs to appeal to everybody, to children, yes, but to also adults too. So I just wanted to kind of get us to have that level of understanding as we maybe consider adapting, changing, growing your playgrounds, your play spaces, the environments that you may be working in. Okay, I just want to bring to your attention here an article, and we're just going to lay a quick foundation here of just some definitions of what is nature play and what is the definition of a nature play space, so that we can kind of just hone in and just sort of build off this nugget of understanding with the short amount of time that we have. So I arranged these definitions from the Nature Play Guidelines, Guidance on Incorporating Nature Play in Public Spaces, second edition. So this is prepared by the City of Austin. There's a QR code there if you're interested. It is quite a detailed read of how you can develop and arrange a nature playground, nature play space in your area, and brings in many good and wise considerations. And I know it's available through Texas Children Nature Network as well, but there's a quick QR code if you want to go straight to it. Good for putting in your back pocket for when you may want to develop and build further with your play space. So, definition of nature play. So nature play is any type of play that involves the interaction with or use of objects that nature provides. A nature play space is defined as a nature play space is areas for all ages and abilities, which encourages creative and unstructured play while exploring natural materials. I just definitely want to highlight that area of all ages and abilities. It's really important before you get started that how can my space fit and be as accommodating as possible for everybody. And I know I've talked about definitely cross generations in my introduction there and in my questioning, but you also need to consider abilities too. Access, wheeled access, disabled access, access for non-mobile, for mobile, for different various, when we talk about ADA compliance, ADA takes in a lot of account for wheelchair access, but to take that to a next level, wheeled access and access for disabled peoples doesn't incorporates a lot more than just wheelchairs as well. And there's definitely some good research out there on how we can do that. And on a side note there, ADA definitely does a lot of compliance for playground construction and installation, it tends to be more for the what I call pollen platform playgrounds, the typical play structures that you'll see in a park. Nature play is definitely its own entity, and you want to incorporate the nature play aspect and access, which the ADA doesn't really necessarily touch at this stage. So again, a lot of nuances to consider within that. I definitely don't have time for that today, but I find it all very interesting and something that I definitely try my very best to keep adapting, developing, and involving my design abilities to incorporate that too. So just to start off with too, I want to just put a very broad brushstroke of some of the benefits of nature play. And these are all research benefits. Children in Nature Network, Texas Children in Nature Network too, definitely have some great resources too, which highlight a lot of these nature benefits, which I got my resources off of. So just to start off with, just it just helps with brain development. It just helps with stress. It helps with becoming just a whole person connecting with nature. So your brain is getting stimulated. It's stimulating those neurotransmitters. I had a comment earlier before putting your non-mobile children, obviously your non-walkers, infants, taking them outside. It is the most stimulating and healthy activity to do with infants because it is creating so many brain connections for them through what they're hearing, seeing, smelling, touching, tasting, everything. Because nature provides so much variety that that manufactured objects tend to be predictable, smooth, perfectly round, perfectly square. Nature is not like that at all. It gives different textures, different shapes and sizes and irregularities that are so important for a human body to experience in order to function and compute and to understand. Stimulates dopamine production. So just being outside helps with like your stress levels and produces feelings of good and well-being. I think we can mainly all agree to that. I mean, I know we talked about Texas being hot. That's maybe your stress receptors probably going a little bit more off on that, but typically, yeah, just being outside is great for your stress levels and feeling of joy and good feelings. It helps improve your focus, both your eye focus, but your mental focus as well. Promotes healing, bolsters resilience against stress. And it's just sensory rich, as I have mentioned as well. Supports your eyesight. So it actually exercises your eyes to focus on different, like near, far, and in everything in between. It increases your vitamin D levels. Obviously, the sun helps in that area, which is great for your immune health. It reduces the risk of bone and heart disease, and it lowers blood pressure. So these are some research facts of what just being outside can do, and definitely being in nature too, as an extra benefit there. Okay, so with that being said, let's look at a need. Why is it, and for what reasons do we need to be having this discussion about children getting out in nature? This article from the Effective Nature-Based Outdoor Play and Learning Environments for Below 3 Children which is a literature-based summary. This was a article written by a group from Texas Tech, from their landscaping architectural um, faculty, that they posted this journal for the International Journal of Environmental Research. It's a really deep dive into the whys and what you can do about it. So some of this PowerPoint is taken from that. It melds really well with your OLE, which is your outdoor learning environment design elements as well, which is what I've been trained in. But just to start off with, and just to create some desire and some energy and some movement into the why. So it's research that considering more than 13 million children under 5 years of age in the US spend most of their waking hours in care facilities. The potential benefits of having nature-based outdoor play in their primary care environments are immense. However, guidelines and assessment standards for designing nature-based outdoor environments for below 3 children, which is infants and toddlers, is almost non-existent. Okay. So with that being said, what's your initial thoughts about that?
I had one thought just in the US, especially, I feel like people can get very sue happy. And like you had mentioned, nature is unpredictable. I wonder if part of that is just they don't even want to test out things or try things out to kind of bubble wrap the babies.
Mm,
So I would maybe see it from that lens of, well, let's protect them. We'll keep them inside where it's a
mm,
more predictable environment and controlled environment. And so it makes those that want to do outdoor things, they're just maybe scared or hesitant to do it.
mm. That's a great thought. Yes. And yes, definitely in my experience in um, early childhood, there is that fear. There is that hesitancy. And it spans from your parents that can have that fear, or I'll call it fear, but hesitancy is probably a better word for it. Um, And then it also extends to your program leaders. Sometimes they are like, yeah, let's just wait until they turn 2 to be outside. Or then you have your teachers that may also may be of the same thinking, just to avoid any problems, to avoid the arguments with, or the having to talk to the parents about why they scrape their knee or something like that. It's that whole risky play element. But you know yeah, there just has to be that further education and further understanding of you're robbing the opportunity for these children to be outside and to just gain so many just health benefits, developmental benefits. It's crazy. Any other thoughts? Okay, I've got here. Just let me look at the chat here. Um, all right. So Lynn mentioned here this needs to be addressed maybe through public health side. Schools could be a good place to do some assessing. I don't know. Is that connected. I'm not too sure if that's connected to the question or not. Lynn, I don't know if you want to come off mute and explain. I'd love to hear about that.
I was just thinking, I was looking at the assessment standards for designing nature, that there was no assessment standards. That's what I was looking at.
Okay, yes. Thank you for explaining that. So yeah, there's minimal assessment standards. I mean, there are things that, as far as I understand, that are starting to start being written into things like NACI guidelines, but there's definitely nothing that is set for outdoor playgrounds and being a nature play space necessarily. But yeah, it definitely has to happen. There has to be a paradigm that has to occur in order, especially in the area of standards, guidelines, in order for people to become aware. Hang on, this has to occur in my environment, and it's really interesting, and to me it just doesn't make any sense, because look how much research is invested into this. So even over the last 10, 15, even 20 years of what nature provides for children, on all levels. And why is this not still being integrated? And this has to beg the question, and I can't answer that question necessarily. There's definitely a lot of things that go into it. Okay, so Brianna mentioned here we have incident forms, but some parents don't like their kids outside. Fear of getting bit. Some parents have bug phobia. This is true. This is one reason why I put that graphic there of our friend patting a bee, which is pretty bold as well. But on the same token, the bees the bees gonna fly away. It's not necessarily going to bite you. Bees only do that for self-protection, but we're not going to go into that necessarily. But yes, you're exactly right. There's phobia. There's phobia of just getting dirty, getting sand in the hair. Pardon me. There's lots of things that they're saying they don't want their child for that to occur, which needs to be addressed, and it needs to be respected within the context of the family. But what are some creative ways of trying to avoid that at the same time, by not totally just not having children or their child being outside. It has to be an education opportunity for teachers, for parents, for educators, to discuss further. Anna mentioned we have written into our admission packet that they have to sign off on the fact, the fact that we're outside and small insect bites may happen. Yeah, and along with that, it has to be the scrapes and bumps. It's interesting because just on a side note there, we seem to think we have 5 senses. We actually have a lot more senses than 5. But one of those senses is pain. Why do we have the sense of pain for? And, it's to alert us, okay, this is not good. This hurts. This is uncomfortable. But it also has to alert us to the fact of, okay, creating some sort of mental, physical boundaries for ourselves, not to pursue doing something that goes beyond that that pain level to injury to being a hazard. And we're sort of delving into now the risky play element. But as mentioned there, writing into your policies that these things are going to happen, have to be expected in order for children to learn. And it's really important. And Anna, that's a really good proactive approach in order to alert families, okay, what some of the possibilities can happen. I mean, you can go through a whole care situation from infant until you age out, and you may not get bitten by anything. Well, some children just seem to get bitten by everything. And having that proactive approach of making parents aware these things can potentially happen, but there has to be an explanation of the why behind it, and what are the benefits even out of that, but what are the benefits of being outside as well. It's definitely a really important education piece that we have to take seriously. Thank you for sharing that one, Anna. I've got here, I work for a tree company where we take the logs from the trees that are being removed, and I turn them into playscapes for children. Right now I'm working with pre-K for San Antonio here in, beautiful. So there's just that element of nature, using tree logs. We use plastic or rubber insects in dirt and rocks, never real bugs, but they get to touch and see, feel the bugs. Plus, the bugs are labeled using pictures so we can explain them. Yeah, so it's a whole education factor too, that you're learning about nature. We're looking for tree stumps. Oh, okay. We are off on a side note, which is fine. We can definitely find out more about tree stumps. Can tree stumps be treated for bugs? To a point. But we can talk more about that towards the end of the talk. So, okay. So let's get into this is kind of like the why behind what we're doing. This is more the how. So let's get into the nitty-gritties here for the next 10 minutes or so of just some design elements and design considerations for your play spaces, for your playgrounds, for your environments. So before going into the specifics, we want to look at sensory opportunities. And opportunities just for your development as well. And it's pretty much across the board that children are experiencing and are stimulated developmentally in all their areas of social, emotional development, language development, cognition, perceptual and motor development. And so all your senses are fired completely. And so the reason why this is so important, if you are stimulating a child's senses, they are engaged. And if they're engaged, their mind, body, soul, and spirit is fully vested. It's fully engaged. And nature provides that. Being in the early childhood realm for so many years, I can tell you a classroom can get stale. A classroom, it needs to get developed. It needs to get redesigned. It needs to change over time. Nature, it can be the same, but nature is always changing. And so this is why it's so stimulating. This is why it's stimulating within the realms of not being overstimulated and not being understimulated. There's such a happy medium going on with that. Yes, there are times when there's complete overstimulation and there's complete understimulation, but children tend to seek it. And nature also provides the opportunities to move from one to the other. So for the design aspect of this training, I'm going to just hone in on these design domains or design zones. So does your environment have these areas? Does it have sensory play, construction and manipulation? Does it provide art, language, and literature? Does it provide physical activity and health? And then does it also have areas and zones of rest and relaxation? So let's just unpack those a little bit more. So for our sensory play, we've got, and these are just some additions to what you can have for sensory play. Sand and mud. And so just loose materials is also what I call it. But you can also have obviously mud and dirt. So mud is water and dirt. You have sand play. A couple of these pictures actually have pea gravel. You can have mulch. There's so many different loose materials that are accessible for us to have in a play space. And these photos just tell the story for themselves, how children are engaged into these particular areas. I've got some 18-month-olds. They're just going to town with the rocks and gravel, which, you know, they're there for, you know, quite the duration too. They're just not playing. You know, toddlers tend to just move around like bees with flowers, and you know, just to take a page from Sandra Duncan and her research, especially of toddlers and how they move around in an environment. They do tend to just kind of go from area to area. But at times, even toddlers can pause and just play and create for more than just periods of 5 minutes. And this is magical, especially when you're working with toddlers, if they can stay in a place longer than 5 minutes. And being engaged and being engrossed in what they're doing. And so if you have an area that does that, it is definitely magical. So continuing with sensory play, water, and we've mentioned that as well. Water is such an important factor in hotter climates because it actually cools down the environment and it keeps the participants cool, so children and adults. If you're wanting to get into the water, and you know, you've got pumps, you've got the hose. It's pretty simple. Sprinklers, you have misting systems, many different ways of using water in your play space. Some are cheaper than others, but having that availability and opportunity for children to be in water, especially during the hotter times, is priceless as well, and it just grabs their attention too. Sensory pathways. So we're going to talk about paths here in a little bit, but using them in ways of sensorial for feet, for crawling, for your crawlers, your cruisers too, over just pebbles and rocks and things like that. Having a sensory garden, and then music as well. Okay, beg your pardon. So construction and natural construction, large blocks, loose parts play. So loose parts theory of having materials that children can build and construct with. And outside, I mean, you have that inside. If you just think of blocks, typically a classroom has wood blocks. And so that takes on this element of loose parts theory of building from just simple materials. Outside, you can have such a broader diversity of materials that can be larger, bigger, and heavier. And I just want to do a plug here, especially with younger children under the age of 3. Your toddlers, your 18-month-olds that more mobile, walking, they go through this stage of wanting to pick things up and move them around. And the bigger and heavier they are, the more stimulating it is for children of that age and older too. Having those opportunities in your play space are extremely valuable. And it also lets them understand the power that they have with their bodies, but also its limitations too. And it helps them then to also problem solve. How can I move this from over here to over here? It then starts incorporating social elements as children get older and start working together using loose parts play. It's quite amazing and beautiful. I could do a training on that just in itself about loose parts. But having opportunities for children to construct and build and make tents and forts and cubbies and houses and large structures as well is so valuable too. Then you have art, language, and literature. So this is a mindset of taking the indoors outdoors. I know there's an understanding of taking the outdoors indoors. This is kind of that switch. Having the same experiences that children tend to do in a classroom, I'll call it, or your indoor educational space, doing it outside just provides so much different brain stimulation. It also provides physical changes. Just looking at this girl on the right, just using a vertical drawing space does so much different to your brain and body and how it connects if you're doing it on a level surface, for example. And so, and you can do larger movements more so outside. So you're going to your left to right. So your body is going past your hemispheres, your left and right hemispheres. So it's stimulating and connecting your brain hemispheres so much more. I know we mentioned wildlife and seeing insects and birds and other animals that tend to be outside, which creates its own fascination, stimulation, development, language, questioning, your whole STEM spectrum as well. Doing outdoor reading and language. I love doing my outdoor group times outside. And for children, like doing that inside, if you have children that aren't interested, they go off doing their thing, a lot of the times you're not doing any large group exercises at all anyway. Doing that outside, you might have children that want to go off and play, but it becomes less of a distraction to those who actually want to participate in your group discussions, your group readings, things like that. And again, it just provides a different element. Pretend performance, so you dramatic play, having stages or raised elevations. I know I've used like big flagstone rocks, probably like 6 feet by 4 feet. You can get big rocks like that delivered. You can use that as a stage or anything raised area. Here's one on the left that we've designed and installed. We use these color perspex for the sun to also refract, and it creates a color, kind of like a color montage when the sun shines through. It's quite beautiful. Okay, oops, sorry. Got a bit of a lag on my computer. So for activity and growth, we've got pathways for play. Play structures, topography, fruit and veggie gardens. Okay, so one thing I want to say is pathways that connect your elements are quite important for children to move in and through your playground, which creates interest. It also it creates a level of safety too. It also accounts for foot traffic. Foot traffic, especially when you're talking about natural elements like grass, grass tends to get worn down. Even if you have grass that can take a lot of foot traffic, you have to just be sure to account for that. But then again, if you're using pathways that can take that is important. Definitely want to put a plug in there for topography and landforms. Behind, I don't know if you can see it, but behind that bush on the right, you have a hill, basic hill. North Texas is so flat; it's insanely flat, and children don't get to roll down hills and run up hills and feel their body against gravity in a way that hill provides, and hills and hillsides and things like that. So having topography is extremely important. Even just getting a mound of dirt brought in, children will just have so much fun. Okay, rest and relaxation as we finish up here. This tends to be something that is not considered in your outdoor design, but I think it's so important where children can have a place to pull away from the activity of children, of other children, and to just have a place of pausing, resting, and just healing as well. For younger children, for toddlers, I love designing like fountain grass mazes. So places where they can get lost or feel like they're lost from other people, but actually they're not. And just that level of just developmental stimulation for them is so valuable too. And do you have these places in your environment? Is definitely a good question.
Hey,
Okay,
Matt.
speaking
Oh,
speaking.
perfect timing. We
Yeah.
have a question in the chat. Um, and Brianna would like to know what let me read it here. What can we use for safety gear or just allow them to be free? What are your thoughts on that?
Um, that I mean, it just depends what it's for. If it's something that you find that children need to start off with, I mean, the question is what it's for and why are you using it? Is it something that is stopping them necessarily from a hazard or a potential hazard, or is it stopping them from learning something, being more of a risk that a child can self-regulate with? So it really just depends on what that is. I probably just need some specifics about what the safety gear would be for to answer that properly. Okay, I got like knee pads. Um, I wouldn't think you would need knee pads unless it's more for specific children, parents that may have a specific concern about their children tearing up their knees and having a problem with that. If my children's knees get scratched up and bloodied, and for someone like me, it's not a problem, but I understand for some parents it can be a problem. If a solution is to use knee pads, and having knee pads not only for that one particular child but for all children, then it's a possible solution for that specific concern or challenge. So I think it's probably more case by case, if that helps at all, Brianna. Any other questions?
Yeah. Talk a little bit about resilience, Matt, and how children are learning about resilience when they're outside on the playgrounds, even those scraped knees. Children are learning that they are they're okay, right?
Mm.
We heal, we can do hard things. Sometimes we have to make adjustments.
Mm.
So what are your thoughts on resilience?
Well, as you just mentioned, children. I mean, we humanity, we don't live in a bubble. We definitely need to, as adults. I mean, let's work our way back. As adults, resiliency is extremely important in our roles and in our work. In relationships, we have to be resilient in relationships, as an example, in order for relationships to fully blossom and bloom and work. Um, Outdoor in nature play definitely helps stimulate that. It helps us understand also our own physical boundaries and what we're capable of. For resiliency, we need to understand that our bodies can actually get hurt, but our bodies can also heal. And so how are we addressing that healing process ourselves when we get hurt? How are other people addressing that too when we get hurt? So we've got areas of empathy and even sympathy coming in with that. I was going to apply a picture of a slide, and I know, Beth, you've seen it too, of one friend getting a band-aid for another friend.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think you know the one I'm talking about. And so,
Yes. It was a 20
so
minute video on children helping each other through a little bit of a scraped knee.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yes,
and
for sure.
yeah, and for that child helping their friend out who's got a scraped knee, how are they understanding that level of empathy if they haven't had a scraped knee themselves
Right.
and bump their toe as themselves as well? So it just creates this whole um, under culture of that resiliency itself. So yeah, we can definitely talk a lot heavier and thicker about that area of
That's it's
resiliency,
a
but
whole other training, right?
oh, totally, yeah. I mean,
What all these
add
topics
that to
are.
the list.
So we
Yeah,
have one more question and then
yeah,
we'll wrap it up for today.
yeah, sure.
Lynn and Brianna both have questions about one being how would you approach schools about involving kids with nature?
Mm.
And then also, is this something that we need to educate parents on as well? What are your thoughts on that?
Mm. Yeah, that's good. I'm just going to move this to then our action plan, and I'm going to answer that question as we look into this action plan um of okay, getting schools involved in nature. And I think, and in my experience, it has to be education first. Um, and with that education, we need to understand, because there is just so much research, so much facts that we have at our store, it can even be overwhelming. So, you'd want to just create an opportunity to have a conversation with these schools. How are you going to find an in to why is it, or where is it that this particular school, its program, its administrators, its decision makers, where are they in the spectrum of nature play? Is it something that they're afraid of? Is it something that they're just full on board with, and they don't need much information necessarily to start then going to the next steps? You have that level of education. You also have funding too. Funding is obviously a roadblock, but it's also an opportunity to find, okay, is funding a problem here? If so, can we find grants? Can we find people that are going to support um, nature being in our school environments? And is it going to be funder, voluntary labor? Where are we going to fit in with just getting some little things at a time too? And to kind of just finish off with answering that question there, um, I you don't have to be grand about it. You can just start small. coming up with a big plan is great. Then from that, phase it. Just do smaller bite-sized pieces where funding may be small, labor may be difficult, these kind of things. Well, with what I got, just assess what have I got here, or what can I accumulate regarding labor, regarding funding, and what can I do with what I've got here. And so just analyzing and assessing those sort of things first is really important, to then go to the next steps, and then go to the vision and the dream and the goals, and then the execution, those kind of things there. Did I completely answer the two-part question on that, Beth?
Yes, I believe you did.
Okay, so hopefully that helps. So as we wrap it up, here I've just encouraging you, is there anything, or was there anything from this training that has created a motivation for starting something in your program, starting something in your role, where you're at? Hopefully so. If this may have been a little bit more on the foundational side of what you're looking at, you were looking for something a little bit more, then those articles, those 2 articles that I gave you, are a deep dive. And I encourage you to just take a little bit of time to look into those articles, and I can guarantee that you will find something that you can definitely glean from with that. So as a final slide here, there's my references and some further research for you. Those two articles at the top there are the ones that I definitely use as references for this training. There's some good deep dive if you really want to tuck in and get some good information. I found it just absolutely stimulating going through those. So I encourage you to do that. If you're looking for just some more just interest and stimulation into the whys behind, then Balance and Barefoot is a good one too. That's definitely a book written by Angela J. Hanscom. So I think she was she an occupational therapist?
Yes, she's an occupational therapist in the Northeast, and she has created Timber Nook schools, which are now franchises that are starting to pop up all over the U.S. But it is her work is all around sensory integration, and I actually, whatever training I'm doing for early childhood, this is recommended reading for parents, for teachers, for anyone who is working with children, to help understand the sensory system better. I can't say enough.
Yeah. Yeah. She's awesome.
She is amazing. Thank you, Matt, for being here today. We so appreciate it, and so appreciate the information that you provided for everyone. Also, for all of you, thank you for being here today. Spread the word about the network. And if you have any follow-up questions, if you need connections, anything like that, please email me, and I will answer your questions, do whatever I can to help you. Again, the goal of the EC network is to provide support for all of you that are in centers, that are in programs, at Parks and Rec, to provide what you need in order to get these spaces out there, and get them, high quality for our kiddos. So, and something